Are you ready to learn how to become a more effective teacher when it comes to giving private lessons? In this video, I'm going to share a few tips that will take your teaching ability to the next level. These are 10 simple things that I've used for over 25 years that will completely set you apart as a teacher. And the best part is that your students will get to share in the reward of you becoming not just any teacher, but an awesome teacher. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Dustin. I've spent much of my life teaching private lessons, and I've learned a lot along the way, and I wanted to share those experiences with you who are younger or less experienced teachers. Today's lesson is a special one for me to teach because I don't often share tips like I'm going to share in this video. I'm going to share some advice that I've learned from years of experience, and I'm really excited to hear from you and see how these 10 tips help make you the awesome teacher that you are meant to be. I've spent most of my life as a professional musician. Over the last 25 years, I've taught approximately 25,000 lessons in person, recorded and produced hundreds of songs, written some helpful books, and shared the stage with some incredible rock stars like Alan Stone, Ernie Halter, Fitz and the Tantrums, Tony Luca, Kid Sensation, and some of these guys are actually good friends. I've been blessed to have grown up with some of the greatest musicians in the world today. And you know what all these rock stars have in common? Someone took time to teach them. From the very beginning of my musical career, I found a true love in teaching others the gift of music. There's something unbelievable that happens when you help another person who's less experienced than you to learn how to do something and do it well. My talent is instruments, so I help people learn instruments. You might have a different gift like art, math, or sports. Leave me a message in the comments below and tell me what you teach. I also have a special gift for you at the end of this video. It's a free welcome packet outline that will help you effectively communicate who you are as a teacher, your teaching philosophy, what you expect of your students. And you really want to get these items clearly written out to prevent miscommunication with students and parents. And the added benefit is that once you get these details figured out and communicated in your welcome packet, you can focus on teaching your students. I've been using this welcome packet in my lessons for over 20 years, and I believe it will have a huge impact on the way that you communicate expectations and goals for your students. Now grab something to take notes with because I'm about to share my top 10 teacher tips. Number 1, start today. Don't wait for the students and parents to convince you. Say yes to the students asking you to teach them right now. If you've considered teaching but you haven't actually started teaching quite yet, I want to encourage you to just say yes to those asking you. Don't shy away from the opportunity to teach. I can still remember when I was 13 years old and my friend Jonathan wanted to get a guitar and learn how to play it. He asked if I could teach him. I didn't know anything about teaching. I was only 13 years old, but I knew a few things about playing the guitar. So I said, sure, I'll show you everything I know. And it wasn't but a few months later, and he was already learning to play some of his favorite songs. Here's why I want you to say yes to teaching. When you teach someone else how to do what you do, you're going to learn so much about your skills and talents that you couldn't have learned any other way. You'll be taking your knowledge and skills and concepts and learning to communicate them in a way that someone else can understand them. Trust me, as soon as you say yes to teaching, you're going to begin to understand the things I'm talking about here. And you'll see some of what I did to turn 2 students into hundreds of students and into over 25 years of teaching and enjoying every lesson. Sound good? Then give me a thumbs up on this video and we'll keep going. Number 2, keep a notebook or journal. This is for record keeping, and this is way more important than you realize. I have a few other words for this. It's called being responsible, being efficient, and being effective. It's so important to track progress, and it's helpful to take notes throughout your lesson time. This is so you don't have to remember everything that you covered at the end of the lesson. That's not always easy to do when you're teaching 20 plus lessons in a day or 60 plus lessons in a week. Writing notes during your lessons will save you so much mental energy and allow you to spend that mental energy on being more focused on the students. I often write out what we're going to do in the next lesson during the current lesson so that I don't have to think of it when I see the student next week. That helps a lot. For years, I kept 2 separate sets of notes in every lesson. One was for me, my own teaching journal that I wrote in every day. I would write down every lesson time, every student name, if they were absent, late, and notes about everything we did in the lesson. This was so helpful because I could refer to it whenever. Even if I didn't look at it again until the next lesson, everything was right there and I was ready to go in about 5 seconds of seeing what we worked on last time. Side note, You might think like I did at first, saying, I'll remember everything, I've got a great memory, and it was possible to remember every lesson each week until I got about 20 students. Then I had to start practicing the art of note-taking in order to remain an effective coach to my students. I believe that by taking notes and planning future lesson material during each lesson, I became a much more effective instructor and coach to my students. The second notebook that I would often use was for the students. Basically, one page that I'd write down everything we worked on in the lesson so that they knew exactly what to work on until the next lesson. The key here is to write down everything as you're doing it in the lesson. This will give you more time at the end of your sessions because you won't have to scramble and write it all down while the next student is walking in, and this will allow you to be more present with your hellos and your goodbyes as you transition from one lesson to the next. So it's a big benefit to use a notebook. Number 3, take the pressure off and teach what you know. Teach what you've learned from others and what you've learned from your teachers. There's nothing new under the sun, so don't feel pressure to make up something new. Over time, you'll develop as a teacher and you'll have more established methods and repertoire of things that you teach. It's okay to refer to reference, or even to copy what you've learned from your teachers and what you've seen other people do. Think of it like learning an instrument. There's probably more than one way to hold a guitar or sit at a drum set, but there aren't 100 ways to do that. At some point, we're all copying one another. You know, years ago, one of my students had become pretty good friends with guitar legend Steve Vai, and he was actually able to have Steve Vai teach him a few things about guitar playing. He told me that Steve's advice to him was to emulate other musicians 100%. Steve told him that we aren't inventing how to play the guitar here, there are only 6 strings, and everyone is just stealing ideas from each other anyway, so you might as well do the same. I was a bit surprised at the advice coming from one of the greatest of all time, but it kind of makes sense. So the point that I want to make here is that you already do what your students are trying to learn to do. So teach them what you do. And as your knowledge and skill continue to develop, you can teach new things. Just don't get caught up in thinking you have nothing to teach. Just teach what you know. Number 4, be consistent. Do not let this tip be underrated. This is so important, more important than you can imagine. If you're having issues with students showing up regularly and they're canceling lessons, this may be why. If you aren't consistent, dependable, and trustworthy, then you will not be successful as a teacher. But if you communicate and show up when and where you're supposed to show up, then you'll develop trust with your students and parents, and they will literally refer you to everyone they know. My rule is this: don't cancel a lesson ever unless you absolutely have to. Try to schedule your vacation time on that 5th week of every couple months if you're able. Now, sometimes you will need to reschedule, but this should only be once or twice a year if you're going to make teaching a real job. People need you to be dependable. They actually need you to be more dependable than they need you to be a good teacher. A lot of teachers complain about their students canceling all of the time, but the truth is this culture is often set by the teacher themselves. From canceling, moving lessons around too much. And here's the deal: if you cancel the day before or even last minute on your students, then they're going to start canceling on you. So if you're dependable and you never cancel and you always over communicate, then you'll typically have a much stronger attendance percentage with your students. Number 5, keep learning. Just because you become a teacher doesn't mean you need to stop learning. It actually means that you have even greater opportunity to learn and grow. In fact, I found that in my years of teaching the most students was when I was also learning the most. I was the most inspired to both learn and teach. For me personally, when I was teaching full-time out of my home studio, I was constantly having new lesson plans and ideas come to mind. It never had to be forced because I was not only thinking about it, but I was doing it hour after hour, teaching, and it was so much fun. I believe that the best teachers are also the best learners, so don't give up on learning just because you start teaching. That would be a missed opportunity. Number 6, set up and use a studio or office if possible. Find a place to teach that can be easily set up and easily used, like an office. Definitely not a bedroom unless it's your only option. It's really weird to be in a room that's not like an office. For instance, like a kitchen, a garage, or a bedroom. You really need a dedicated space where you have good light, a little bit of extra room for parents and the next students to come in, and a place that's both welcoming and comfortable. When I built my studio a few years ago, we added a smaller room where I would teach and a larger waiting room for students and parents in between lessons. I would also do group lessons in this larger space and even held music camps in the summer. The waiting room area also had coffee and snacks available to students and parents and siblings, basically whoever would attend. A little bit of hospitality really goes a long way. And I want to encourage you to think through the entire experience for your students and not just the lessons, including parents and siblings that are often there for drop-off and pickup. I can't tell you how many times I've ended up teaching siblings, parents, and even entire families. Having a space that is well organized with a little hospitality is more important than we often realize. Number 7, create a welcome packet. This is where I really want to help you out by sharing my free online welcome packet outline. This is a 1 to 3 page document filled with information that will help your students and parents understand more about who you are and what you expect of them when they're a part of your program. This is being organized, this is being responsible, and it will create greater trust between you, your students, and their parents. Communication is key. A couple other things I like to do with my welcome packets is to provide some information about me. Where did I receive my education? What experience do I have in the industry? What's my philosophy when it comes to teaching? How many hours a week do I want the students to practice? And things like that. Other things like, how much do lessons cost? What's my cancellation policy? What's the best way for them to get in touch with me during the week? You could also include information about recitals and performances if that's something that you offer to your students. Consider having an acknowledgement at the very end, at the bottom, the last page, where the parents, you, and the student all sign and date it. This is a good thing because it tells everyone that what we're agreeing to here, this information matters, and that the commitment to learning also matters. As a side note, it's a great documentation to have because you'll have the actual date that students started taking lessons with you. I had some students that were with me for over a decade, and it was really meaningful for them. Just once a year when I'd take a moment to congratulate them on all they had accomplished since beginning lessons. I really want to help you get this welcome packet right. I think it makes a huge difference. So I've included a link in the bottom at the description. Again, it's completely free and it goes into a lot more details on the items that you're going to want to have in your own welcome packet. Number 8, write down and give homework. This is sometimes difficult to do because we don't want to make it difficult or create obstacles for our students to learn, but we can't think of homework as a problem. We need to think of it as an opportunity for growth. You don't have to think of it as homework if you don't like that word, and I don't like that word either. Call it a daily routine or practice drills or expectations or things to accomplish before the next lesson. People expect homework. It's not a downer. It needs to be a part of your training. Repetition and practice is how we get good at anything and everything. I have found there's only one shortcut in life, and it's practice, practice, practice. When you write out the homework, clearly write out what you want the student to practice. Give good instructions and expectations for what you want them to accomplish before the next lesson. You can do this by printing out a form that you fill in. It can be a half page or a whole page depending on how you have it laid out. But the point is that you want your communication regarding practice to be clear. I find that most students want to do a good job and most of them want to develop their talent. So our job as instructors and trainers is to set expectations that are clear and attainable. Make it easy for them to understand and easy for them to achieve the goal. Number 9, teach more than your talent. This is one of the most powerful things that you have the ability to do as a coach for your students. You need to know that as an instructor, you have a special place in each student's lives. And it's an incredible opportunity for you to build them up and encourage them. This one tip has the power to revolutionize your impact on your students. If you can find a way to connect with them as a friend, regardless of age, then you will not only become a friend, but you will become a trusted counselor. In that position, you have a priceless opportunity to encourage, motivate, and empower your students. This is how you develop lasting friendships with people that will literally last a lifetime. Your impact as an instructor can go far beyond the subjects that you're teaching, and they should. My hope is that you'll learn to care for your students, not just because they learn from you and not just because they pay you money, but I want you to experience just how good life can be when you have friends. Remember, it's important to develop good listening skills so that your students know that you care. By teaching more than your talent, you'll become more than a great instructor, you'll become a great friend. Now, if you're still with me, then you are about to hear the most important and my personal favorite teacher tip that there is. And this is something that no one else can really help you with. But if you can learn to do number 10, then you are capable of doing anything. So, number 10 is your ultimate superpower, and it is be you. That is your superpower. Isn't that awesome? 9 times out of 10, your students just want to be like you. They want you to teach them. They don't want to just learn how to do the thing. They want to be like you. I used to be that young hotshot guitar teacher guy. There was a time many years ago when the young musicians in my town wanted to be a rock star like me, and the best thing I ever did was leverage that influence into encouraging them to learn, practice, and develop their gifts and talents. Many of them have become phenomenal musicians, many are songwriters, and many of them now teach instruments to other students just like I did for them. So don't try to be like any one of your teachers in the past. Don't try to be like me or another instructor that maybe you've seen in a video. Instead, use your superpower and be you. And when you do, you will do more than teach. You will develop lasting friendships. You'll make huge impacts on your students as you discover unique gifts and talents that you did not know that you had prior to stepping out and teaching. The free welcome packet outline that I've made for you is linked in the description. That will help you prepare to take your teaching to the next level. In it, I share some writing prompts that will help you as you build and customize your own student welcome packet. And you can click on the link in the description below this video to get that free outline. So, how many of you out there have experienced success by putting some of these tips into action? I want to hear from you in the comments below, and give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. I also want to know if you think there are additional tips that should be included in this list and why. Put it all in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next lesson.